Cool. Great morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. As you come on the line, put your business or your name down in the comments and let us know what type of industry that you're in. I got some today. My prayers and hopes are that you're able to get some really good knowledge that will allow you to further your business or better prepare yourself and take advantage of the tax season. We're gonna get started. 4 minutes. So as you come on the line, let me know where you're from, what industry you're in, your name, how we can follow you on Instagram. And if you have any questions, make sure you write them down so you can get them answered. I'm really excited about this today. As you come on, let me know where you're from, what industry you're in, how we follow you on Instagram or Facebook. If you have any questions, write them down, have them lined up. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. My name is Jason Johnson. I'm the founder of Street Charm City. Black Wall Street Charm City was created behind the Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street back in the 1920s. They were a systematic group of Black entrepreneurs that were able to create Black economics throughout their city by having their own stores, schools, you name it. And, it allowed them to circulate the dollar and create wealth amongst the Black community. One thing that inspired me about them then was able to circulate their dollar and, will be almost to, probably a year before the dollar actually left out of the community. But now when we look at it, especially the Black community, it's only a matter of hours before that dollar has gone from one hand and it's out of the Black community, versus, the Asian community, is fluctuating throughout their community for about 30 days. So, I believe there's progress and we're going to continue to strive to be great as individuals and as a culture. And it's going to take time. And, I feel as though we're on the right track to be able to mass produce, which was once created so that we can fluctuate that dollar through the community. Now, today, I have a guest speaker, CPA, Ms. Chelsea Abrams, and I'm excited for the information that she's going to give today. As you all know, it's tax season. A lot know what to do. A lot of people don't know what to do. And there's also some benefits of doing the right things. I also know that, they've PPP loans again. I think this is the second or third round, the second round. And, I'm going to have Ms. Chelsea, dive into some options or, get yourself set up for the PPP loans and the business taxes. So without further ado, I'm going to burst into the stream. Chelsea,
Yes,
can you hear me loud and clear?
I can.
Yes,
So,
Awesome. Yeah, so as you come on, tell the viewers about who Chelsea is.
wait, let me, so hi Clubhouse people. We're on Clubhouse as well as on live. So I'm going to turn this down so we're not getting feedback. Okay. So, hi, for anyone who does not know me, my name is Chelsea J. CPA. I am the owner of Charm Financial Solutions, a financial services company based in Baltimore but serving nationwide, really focused on helping people be tax efficient and just financially literate, not only with their personal lives, but with their businesses. Because it is so important that we know what it is we can do, what we can't do, what we need to do to propel ourselves forward. So that's really what it's about. I'm really loving this year so far. A lot of changes happening, but good changes. And I'm trying to make sure that everyone is aware of them.
Absolutely. So to dive in, can you tell us what are PPP loans?
So the PPP loans, in layman's, it's money that the government is giving out to help companies who have struggled really with everything going on this past year, cover their payroll and some of the other basic expenses. So that's the rent. There's like mortgage interest, utilities, stuff like that. But a majority of it is supposed to go to your payroll.
Gotcha. So pretty much any business can apply for it.
Any business can apply for it. Depends on if you were first round, second round. Second round, there are more requirements. You have to be at, you have to have had at least a 25% decrease in revenue in any
Mm,
quarter when you're looking at quarter over quarter. But it doesn't have to. You don't have to say Q1 versus Q1. It could be like Q4 2019 versus Q2 2020. But you need to have at least one quarter that is 25% lower than your quarters in.
gotcha. Do you, do you know like what type of documentation they usually request?
So it depends on what your entity setup is. So if you
Okay,
have payroll, you need to provide your 941s, and that's really the document that you get from your payroll company that says this is how much you pay people throughout the year. So it has like that information on there. If you're
gotcha.
not, you would need your tax return. So if you're a sole proprietor or you're single member LLC filing as a sole proprietor, you need your
Mhm.
Schedule C. Thing to highlight, a lot of people don't know or realize is you have to show a profit for that year. You can't have negative income as a sole proprietor or um, even a partnership and get it, unfortunately. So we
Oh,
understand that parts of it is, things that you needed to kind of survive. But they're saying, okay, if you don't have positive income as a sole prop or like a partnership, then you're not going to get it unless with the partnership you had like salaries. So if you have salaries, then the salaries is like the base and that's covered. If not, they're looking at the the net income.
gotcha, gotcha. Now to jump off the PPP loans, well, you can apply for those through the banks too, right?
Yes.
Banks, or is there somewhere else that you recommend, like private lenders?
No, you go through the banks. Like community banks are, I think, a little bit better.
Community
They
banks.
are easier to get them, in my opinion.
Hmm,
You're able to kind of access them more. They have less people that they have to go through versus like the larger banks. And I know with the first round, everyone was allocated the same amount, so you had a higher chance of getting approved and stuff with the smaller community banks.
nice. Do you have any banks that you recommend?
Well, I think anyone that's good. I am an M&T banker, so that's where I do my banking. So
I got
that's
you.
where I recommend.
And to jump off the PPP loans, it is tax season, and I know a lot of businesses, they want to know what do they need to prepare themselves for this year's taxes. Like what do you recommend a lot of these businesses get in order or do for tax season this year?
Well, one, just like have an idea of everything that you spent, the revenue that you made. Just try to have all of your stuff in order. At least have it. I always tell people if you want to kind of save on the filing time and then also the cost, have your stuff together. Because if we're now required to do the bookkeeping for the entire year by like going through all of your statements and figuring out how much you spent on this, what you spent on that, how much money you made, what's like, when people start mixing, and we'll talk about that in a second, when you commingle,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to do that. It ends up being a whole new ordeal. So I really recommend people have have their financial house in order. But if you need help with that, it's something that I am here to help with. Those are the steps that you want to continuously make, though.
So what would make your life easier as a CPA? What are some things that because a lot of what you mentioned, we would kind of lean on you to kind of keep us in order on. But let's say that somebody else is out there and they don't have a CPA like you. What would some things that they could get you that would make life easier for you?
No commingling 2021. So what that is you have your personal expenses separate from your business expenses. And if you
Mhm.
have different businesses, you want to make sure that they also have separate accounts. Because you want to be able to track what is for what business, right? You don't want to have your real estate rental income in the same account as your clothing sales. They're treated completely different. They're two different businesses. You're going to have different write-offs and different tax treatments for them. So you want to make sure that you have that stuff separate and in order.
Gotcha. that could be hard sometimes with the commingling, especially when you just want to go sometimes and you just just whatever.
Yeah, well, I think part of it is that people don't know. Excuse me. Oh,
Bless you.
oh, sorry, guys.
Bless you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm fine. Part of it is that people don't know, and they don't understand how um important it is to have that separation. One, it helps with your taxes, but then also from the legal protection. A lot of people go out, get your LLC. Now you have your LLC, right? But
Hmm.
you have every single thing in your personal account. Now, all you're doing is opening that door for people to come in and say, hey, you know what? I slipped and fell on your property. I can sue you and get your house that you live in because there really is no difference between you and your business because everything's all together. It's all commingled. So you want to avoid that. Um, Ways that you can eat, like if you have a bank account that's separate, it
Hmm.
helps, right? One of my friends has completely different banks. He uses completely different banks.
For everything.
So yeah, for everything. So completely different banks.
So one is
So
personal,
one is
one is one
personal.
business, the other is another
Yeah.
business.
So he has his like his businesses and his personal separate. So then he doesn't get confused. Like, oh, I picked up this bank card thinking it was this bank. Nope. I know that M&T is my personal, then BB&T is my business, and then Harbor
Mm.
is for this other business. And that's how he's able to kind of keep everything in order. That works for some people. I don't do that, but knowing that you can also pay yourself or that transfer that money, that also helps. I'm a big fan of credit cards. So have that business credit card, then you can have your personal credit card. If you put things on each of those, it's a little easier to manage. People always like, well, how do I get money out of my business? You can pay yourself. You could just take a transfer it right over. Or sometimes people like to write checks. You can write a
Just write
check.
yourself a check.
You could write yourself a check. I don't own a checkbook, but um, you can just write yourself a check.
That's
So
all
that
right.
kind of covers that.
Now, are there any apps that you recommend that might make things a little easier?
Yes. Okay. So my favorite app, like phone app that I recommend is called Everlance. It's
Avalanche.
Everlance. It's a mileage tracker, but you can also take pictures of your receipts. You can record your revenue. You can put it into different categories. So let's say you're driving and it's
Hmm.
personal, just throw in the personal bucket. But if it's for real estate, then click it into real estate. Now I'm doing it driving for accounting, put it into accounting. Now it's life insurance, put it into that bucket. So I'm able to kind of differentiate what each of them is for. And
Like that.
yeah, so it's cool. And then you can take pictures of the receipts. So anybody who tells you guys that bank statements are sufficient, that's not correct. Bank statements are not sufficient by themselves. Every once in a while, maybe you'll be able to get someone who'll say, oh, okay. And it's easier to prove that it's a business expense if you have a business account, but you want to keep your receipts as much as possible. Take a picture, which is why apps like this is really, really, really good. Another one is Wave Accounting. That's a free
Wave
app,
accounting.
but yeah, it's somewhat restricted, but it's really good for starting off. They can even do payroll. So
Oh wow,
yeah, so
that's really good.
it's really a good basic accounting software, and it's free. The payroll portion isn't free, but the rest of it is.
I had a question. Tam says, can you claim mileage and gas, or should you choose one or the other?
You cannot do both because mileage is like your standard deduction. Um, Gas is your actual expenses. So when you're doing gas, you're doing the depreciation of the car. You are uh, looking at maybe like the direct repairs. You're doing your all your gas receipts. You're doing all of like your actual expenses. So it really depends on one, how good you're tracking that stuff. Two, really how much you're doing for work versus personal. and then also how much your vehicle costs and how much gas costs and insurance and all of that stuff. So if you're only driving 20% for work, you're only going to get 20% of all those actual expenses.
Mm.
So it depends.
Was that good for you, Miss Tam? I think she's good. Okay, now I had some questions about real estate. What are some things that some of the real estate agents or investors need to have in order for tax season this year? She says she's still lost.
She's still lost. Tell her she can
Yeah.
inbox me on
Okay.
this.
We got you. We're gonna hook you up with Chelsea Tam. Okay. So as far as my real estate agents and investors, especially dealing with COVID, what are some things that they should have in order for tax season?
So it's kind of the same thing as I'll say with any business. You need to know what it is you did. You need to have records of how much it is you spent, um, how much you made. What if you're doing? Give me an example, and I can kind of walk through that example a little bit better. It's to, opposed to making it so general. Are we talking about
Let's
rental
say an
properties? Are we
investor
talking
who
about
let's
wholesaling?
let's say an investor who's had a number of commercial properties and they might be dealing with a lot of tenants who aren't paying the rent, but they I don't necessarily know what they would have to give to show the loss and the gains of the year for them.
Okay, so we're talking like the rentals and stuff like that. One, we know that those are treated differently because that is your non-active income.
Mhm.
Uh, Even though you can be, if you're a real estate professional, make sure that you are selecting that you are actively participating. You get different tax benefits for that. You need to make sure you understand that. So that's first and foremost. There is a difference. There are three different ways that you could be treated. You could be passive, you could be active, or you could be a real estate professional. So understand that. Um, but with that, you have like your bank statements, you have the cash going in and out. So having those records, a lot of this stuff, they do have to go off of what we're saying. I also have to go off of what you're saying. I'm not going and auditing everything that you report to me, but I do need to know what it is that you are providing, help you help it make sense.
Right,
If
right.
you are confused about it, but it's like you have tenants that didn't pay rent, right? There should be notices that you send to them saying rent is overdue, right? So kind of just have those as documentation. You have the cash that you did receive. Make a note of every time you receive money. So if normally you receive $12,000, but they missed 3 months and you only got $9,000, then you would only report the 9,000. You just want to make sure that you can support that they did not pay for those 3 months.
Nice, nice. Thank you. Appreciate that.
So then I'll like switch to wholesaling too, because a lot of times that is something that is still like big and a lot of people are using as their intro to real estate. But with wholesaling, mileage. So anyone who has a driving for dollars, what's the deal machine? That's the app.
Hmm.
So deal machine, right? Deal
Yeah.
machine tracks your mileage. Use that mileage all the times you're driving around looking for property. Any like letters or anything that you're sending out, that's tax deductible. If you are in
Mm.
any real estate associations, that's tax deductible. Um, Money that you spent for advertising, tax deductible. If there are meals that you want to discuss different deals and stuff like that, tax deductible. But just make sure that you have who you had the meal with and what the business purpose is. If you had to travel to go to a conference or a meeting or to look at a property or any of that stuff, guess what? Tax deductible.
Tax deductible. And
Tax
that's good
deductible.
with the app Everlance, right? I guess that takes all
You
the
can,
receipts.
yep. And you could put like, let me see. So sorry, my Clubhouse folks, and we should probably, if you guys have any questions on Clubhouse, please raise your hand. I might even bring a couple of you guys up there. Hey, Javante. Hey, Jahan. Hi, Jasmine. All the J's. I look. My middle name is Joanne, so I guess I could fit in there still. But let's see. I'm going to pull it up so anyone who is able to see can see it. Let's see. Okay. So I have this trip right here. That was a personal
Okay.
trip, back and forth. It has the $12 because that's the calculation. That was 21 and a half miles. All you have to do is click it and it says choose purpose. So you just choose your business purpose. So if that was personal, I just put personal, boom, it's done. All you do, personal, press the check button, and that's it. So I have another one right here. This is from yesterday. I classified it. That was a real estate. I drove 106 miles yesterday for real estate. So then now I have all the different options. So there's several different things and several different ways that I can say, hey, I did this for, was it rentals? Was it for like real estate? Was it for like accounting or consulting? What was it for? I select the one that it was, and then it classifies it. When you go to add receipts, you can add an expense. You choose your purpose. What was it for? I'll say it was real estate. What date? What category? Does it go into repairs? Does it go into utilities? Is it interest? What is it? It has a ton of options that you can choose from. And then you could also create your own. You could put the merchant who you bought the stuff from, take a picture of the receipt, and then have a note. So you want to make sure you keep as many like thinking in something like this makes it super, super easy. It takes you 30 seconds. It literally will take you 30 seconds to do that. And there's also a worksheet or an Excel spreadsheet that populates at the end of the year that
Nice.
you can look at, or you can send to your accountant, and it has it in all these categories. So that also then helps you with tax season.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I bet that's a big help for you too.
It
Less
is.
less leg work.
It is. It makes it easier because I understand that. I understand there's a process. There's a process for me too. Even knowing
Right.
this stuff, sometimes you just don't feel like doing it, but you should feel like doing it so you understand where you are with your business. You can understand how much you're making with your business. You can understand how much you're spending. I can go right now to my accounting software, press a button, and tell you how much money I've made for this year, money I have outstanding, where it was spent, who it was spent with. I'm able to do that within moments because they took the time to track it now. So you want to
And that's
make sure
just
that you have
from
this
plug
stuff.
and play from the apps almost.
Well, that is, yeah, because even with Everlance, with QuickBooks, with Zero, with all these softwares, they link to your bank account. So, boom, you're able to just go in and say, all right, I spent this week, and you just press the button. You can even try to set it up so it's smart and it can start recognizing certain things on its own. So there are different ways, but then you also, if you want to use the accounting software, you just have to take a picture, upload the receipt to that expense, or if you want to keep all your receipts in this app, do it that way. You just want to make sure that you're tracking things.
Gotcha. Have another question. Tam said, does it look bad to transfer money from your personal account to your business account?
You can transfer money from your personal account to your business account. That is called an owner's contribution. So, as an owner, you're able to contribute into a business, right? It has to have startup funds from somewhere. So,
Right.
that's okay. You just don't want to, you don't want to pay your rent, your house rent that's personal out of your business account because then it's just like, oh, this is really just your personal account that you're saying is business account.
Gotcha. Tam, she has another question. She says, so people pay her through Zelle and it's connected to her number, but that's connected to my personal account. Would it look like money laundering?
I wouldn't say it looks like money laundering, but it is that whole commingling thing. So set up a Zelle that's connected to your business account because you can do Zelle from business. I have a client that's where we do all of her Zelle payments from her business
Yeah,
account.
I think you can just transfer the number over to your to that business account.
Yeah. So I want to also call up a couple people from. I want to invite them to speak. You know, so we can have some involvement and questions here as well.
I have another question for you.
I'm coming.
It's related to trading. There's been a nice little wave of people jumping into the stock market, Robinhood, and interactive brokers. Jumping into GameStop, winning and losing money. Um, you, how do people go about filing for stocks that they've had losses and gains on?
Okay, so you could be a day trader. There are a lot of rules that would qualify you as a day trader. One of which is you have to trade about 75% of the year. You probably fall in that category, Jason.
Hmm.
And you have to make a certain number of trades throughout the year. But with that, you're able to treat it differently because you can treat it like a business. So there are different rules for people who do that versus
Hmm.
people who um, maybe do swing trading. I do more swing trading or do investing. So with that, when you're doing swing trading or investing, you are capped to the losses that you can have that offset your regular income. Um, but what you would do is you should be able to get a download from Robinhood or E-Trade or whatever brokerage you
Right.
use with your trade transactions, and then you would give it to your professional, your tax professional, your CPA, or what have you, and they will then kind of help figure out what it looks like.
Now, does that apply also for the foreign exchange market and potentially crypto?
Yeah, so crypto is like definitely a newer thing, so constantly learning on that. But one of the questions that they asked last year, the year before, it's like, they're very specific. Did you sell, acquire, like, were you given, do you have any cryptocurrencies in any form or fashion? So they do want to know that. And then from there, um, you will have to kind of, I guess there may be tax consequences from that. But like I said, that's still a newer thing. It's not as, yeah, it's newer.
Yeah, I think it's
So
about to
I don't want to speak
spread like
too much on
wildfire.
it, but yeah. Oh no,
They where they
it
in Miami, they're about to make Bitcoin a form of accepted currency throughout all of Miami. So I think it's about to have a nice ripple effect, especially with them, Miami starting it off.
oh
I
well
think
no. Oh
yeah,
sorry,
they
like
they
the
they
delay.
just announced that maybe I think yesterday, the day before, I think I saw the article that they're about to start allowing Bitcoin as form of payment throughout Miami. So I think
Oh
that's
well,
about to have a nice, a ripple effect around the country.
it yes. Um, but because I know places and people were taking Bitcoin and stuff prior to. But now the government's really trying to make sure they're getting their hands in it. And people were like, oh, well, it's cryptocurrency. It's not traceable. You took the
Well,
money out of
nowadays,
it's it's been traceable for a while.
it
You have to
is.
think when you're unless you're like, yes, there's some people that are like, oh, you just go and buy it from a VPN and you do this and you don't take the money and you put it on here and all that stuff. You would have to do a lot of that stuff, and then that goes back to the question: is that is money laundering, right? When you are taking this money and you're illegally trying to siphon it and put it somewhere else without paying taxes, that is tax evasion, and it is illegal, and it is punishable by jail. Penalties as well, but you could actually go to jail. I posted this thing the other day talking about the difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion, and Wesley Snipes went to jail. Nicolas Cage just had to sell on his castles. So both of them did the same crime. They both owed a lot of money. I think Nicolas Cage actually owed a little bit more, but how they were able to get out of it was a little different. So
That's funny. But he wasn't necessarily he just Wesley just didn't want to pay his taxes.
uh, it, I'm sure if he had the choice, like he could have paid them and not gone to jail. There are different people who go to jail for different reasons. But then you think about like the different mobsters and stuff like that.
Hmm.
They will get in trouble for tax evasion, right? Not necessarily. Sometimes they can't really pin the actual crime on them, but they're like, we could get you for tax evasion because you had this money or you're living this lifestyle. So that's another thing too people need to consider as you're trying. I'm not trying to tell you how to like not get in trouble, but I want you guys not to get in trouble. But
Crypto.
if you're living a certain lifestyle, but you're not reporting any income, it will trigger every single thing in the book. Because it's like, how are you feel affording this Tesla, this $500,000 house, all these nice things, but you only make $25,000 a year?
That's
Houseway.
funny.
Make it make sense.
Is a houseway.
So,
Yeah. I guess you gotta live way below your means, huh? Playing like that.
it's not that you just have to make sure that it makes sense. So if you're writing every single thing
Mm.
off, we'll talk about audit triggers, right? If you're writing everything off and you are consistently showing a loss, it's likely going to like trigger an audit. Not after like 1 year, 2 years, maybe not even 3 years. But by the time you're doing that for 4, 5, 6 years, they're going to want to see that, okay, is this really a loss of the things that you're writing off really real expenses? Not saying that they're not, because it absolutely could be, right?
So how
You
come I
could
couldn't just
have,
get an allowance? How come I couldn't just be a spoiled grandchild or something and get an
look,
allowance of,
there
you
is
know,
a gift tax limit.
stop playing, is it?
Yes,
There's
there are
no
limits
way.
on gift. Yes, there are gift tax limits. So, I haven't really looked them up recently, so I can't tell you what the dollar amount is. But yeah, there are gift tax limits.
So do you really need to tell how much Bitcoin you have? I see Tam says, I don't want them to know about my Bitcoin. Like why if it's not being converted back over to the US dollar, why does it matter how much cryptocurrency I have?
If it's not being converted, then that's a different story. But if it is, but you have to think about how most of the time people are trading. They do convert it because people, this is something that's new, and not everyone, has been doing it for a while. And
Right.
just from experience, people don't do things the most efficient way. So you'll see it, you're like, oh, buy, then, oh, I'm going to sell it. You sell it. What do? You convert it to US, right? Then you go and buy it again, and then you sell it. What do? You convert it. So you have this cycle that you may not even realize that you're converting and creating taxable
Mm.
events.
Well, note to everybody out there, make sure when you're doing your cryptocurrency, use a crypto brokerage. Don't use a US brokerage where you buy Bitcoin and when you convert it or you sell out, it automatically converts back to the US dollar.
How
Um,
about Cash App? That's a US
Cash App
brokerage.
is cool. If you're just starting out, I think Cash App is cool. Or if you're making Bitcoin transactions, Cash App and PayPal are cool. But if you're gonna buy and sell, I would recommend staying inside of crypto brokerage, because that way when you do buy and sell, you have to, you're selling out whatever it is that you purchase, and then from there you can convert to the different cryptos. That'll keep you from having to deal with the US dollar.
Okay, so what's a crypto brokerage? I'm a
um
baby cryptologist, whatever. I just finally bought some this year.
Blockchain, I think that a good way to go. I don't really like Coinbase too much, but blockchain is cool. I like
Okay,
blockchain.
suppose you are in a certain one and then you want to switch to another. How's that happen?
You can just transfer your money. All of them have an address. So if you want to, take your Bitcoin and transfer it to that one, just transfer the addresses. It's still in Bitcoin. It's not in US dollars. So it sounds like you're good to go.
Okay.
Yeah. And the fees coming back over to
You
the
guys
US
are out
dollar are
here.
ridiculous.
Oh, they are
Can I
crazy.
report those? Can I report those fees that they charge every
Well,
time you can?
so if you do pay fees, that is the expense. So you're not getting taxed on that because that's not money that you got. It's not money you received.
'Cause
So
I'm
yeah.
sick of those fees. Let me just say, the Chinese
So
dollar is about to take over.
hold on, wait. Javante, do you have any questions? I see you up here on stage with us.
Hey, good morning. Yes, I do actually.
Good morning.
I'm so glad that y'all are having the room. And Chelsea, you kind of are a little bit more familiar with my business situation. But I did have just something. I hope I don't like confuse anyone. But if I established my business in the summer of 2019, that's when I did it. I established it in the summer of 2019. And so going through that summer up until the entire year of 2020, I did a lot of commingling, right? So I was using my personal money to buy supplies and do everything I needed, pay for insurance for the business. And I didn't make money until the end of 2020. Well, like the third or fourth quarter of 2020. Does it make sense for me to still file taxes for 2019, even though I didn't make money in 2019?
Okay, so Jason, did you have the mic up? Did the people on YouTube and Facebook hear the question?
Well, I held the phone up to the speaker.
Okay, so
So,
okay, I can't
yeah.
hear that one. So I'm going to repeat Javanti's question. The question is, if I did not make any money in 2019, and I didn't really start making money until 2020, but I invested into the business in 2019, do I still have to file taxes? So I will tell people, if you spent this money, you are entitled to the benefits from it. So yes, I would still advise filing taxes in 2019. You would get a loss that then offsets your other income. So there are different things that you can do with that loss. You can kind of take it, you can defer it, or whatever the case may be. But you do want to understand that is one of the options that you have. So don't think, oh, I didn't make any money, I can't file taxes, even though I spent all this money. You do get a deduction for everything that you spent. So thank you for that thoughtful question, because I know that a ton of people had that question all the time. So I appreciate you asking that.
Thank you. And then my second question is, well, I guess that kind of answered part of it, because I know that when it comes to applying for the PPP loans, last year I did the EIDL and I got approved for the first round. The second round, since they are comparing quarter to quarter, and it has to be like a 25%, like, you have to be able to show like I guess like a decrease, or was it a decrease? A 25%? Yeah, 25%. So if it's a loss in 2019, does that consider, like, and I'm comparing it to any year or any quarter in 2020, will that help me with the second round for EIDL now they have all these new requirements?
Well, I'm trying to think. With the EIDL, I know that that's separate. That's not going off of the 25%. That's for the PPP. And my understanding with the PPP, if you made more money in 2020 than you did in 2019, so you don't have that 25% decrease, then no. But I will say it depends on if you had a profit in every single quarter. So if you didn't have a profit in, say, Q2, you didn't make any money in Q2, well, then you still wouldn't have had a loss. I'd have to really look into that one some more. If you didn't make any, because if you didn't make any in 2019, then you wouldn't have been eligible unless you had payroll. So, yeah, I would have to look into this one more, but that's a good question.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yes, since I'm here, I will just say that Chelsea's she's been my CPA for this year. It's my first time ever having somebody who's like on my side that knows like this. So I highly recommend everything that she recommends, because she knows what she's talking about. And thank you again, Chelsea.
Thank you so much, Alphonse. That's so sweet. Thank you.
Mhm.
So
That's cool. Now, do we have any other questions for our viewers that came on?
okay.
If for Tam, I want to say yes, you can get a piece of the Chinese dollar. You'd have to get you a foreign exchange brokerage though. That'll put you in position.
Okay. So what else we got? 'Cause I know there's a lot of stuff happening this year. A lot of things that we can. What do you have going on? What's some questions you have?
Oh yeah. So I wanted to ask you about nonprofits. I'm looking to see if
I knew it.
anybody-
I knew it was coming.
Yeah. So as far as the nonprofits are concerned, I know we prepared a little differently because we're tax exempt. Well, what are some things that we need to have in order to keep us in good standing?
Okay, so you need to make sure that you have like the board, and you guys are having meetings. One thing that I tell people, like, yes, it's a nonprofit. You may run the nonprofit, but it's not your business. Nonprofits belong to no one. So you're not able to do like the owner's withdrawals and stuff like that, because
Mhm.
it's not supposed to just be your personal bank. You could do whatever it is you want to do with your business, um, until you get to the corporation level. Then there are things that have to be approved. But if you're going to do like payouts and stuff like that, the board needs to approve it. You also want to make sure you know when you are, I guess, eligible or triggered for an audit. So I believe it's in Maryland, it's a half a million. You want to check your state because there are different requirements. But just understanding those things. Make sure you're filing your 990s on time. If you have not filed your 990, set up a meeting with someone who can help you get that file an extension. Trying to think some other things.
So you
Same thing, same business things. You want to make sure you keep evidence of the money that you have coming in, evidence of the money that you have going out, because you're
gotcha.
going to get audited, and that's stuff that they check.
Do you need to document everybody that donates?
Are we talking high dollar amounts or small dollar amounts? It's good
High dollar,
practice.
small dollar, any
It's good
dollar.
practice. It's really good practice. I will say it's not something that's always done, because let's say you have some donation boxes, right? You don't know
Mhm.
everyone who's donating in those donation boxes.
Right.
You'll
Donation
you'll get stuff,
boxes.
right? So you have donation boxes where people may. There's some donation boxes that have money in it. There's some donation boxes that have like other goods. So you're not going to know, but it's best practice to keep as much documentation as possible. Because you also have anonymous donors. You have
Sure
someone who
do.
may give to places $3, 4, $5,000 anonymously.
Anonymous. I like anonymous donors. That sounds really good. Now, for the board members, do you need to have uh, the meeting minutes? Is it necessary to have those
Yes,
also?
yes. Documentation is key. Document, document, document.
Okay.
Now, I'm
Now,
not
do
saying you have to
you
have a board meeting every month, but it's
mhm.
just whatever you guys have like, required and decided. You need to have those consistent meetings, and then yes, the minutes.
um, Mr. Niles says, what are some of the tax law changes from last year's tax laws versus this year's?
I'll go with my favorite. So in 2021, you are able to get 100% off of business meals. Something that they're doing, I guess they're trying to help encourage the economy when it comes to like the restaurant industry and stuff like that. So that is something that I think is different. Their numbers always change. Um, as far as like one thing to note, this isn't a change from last year to this year, but entertainment expense is still not allowed, but you want to understand how that works. But I'll say like one of the biggest changes is like the 100% that affects most people. I'll say one of the biggest changes that affects most people is 100% in the business meal.
Nice. I know the restaurants are probably gonna make out this tax season. Do they have any advantages for the restaurants? Because I know a lot of restaurants struggled really hard during COVID
They're eligible for higher PPP loans.
for
So
higher PPP loans. So is there a limit for every other, I guess, industry outside the restaurant industry?
like so I went to this like restaurant hospitality, I think they're 3.5% still, and I think the other ones are 2.5%. Not 2.5%, 2.5 times and 3.5 times. So they essentially don't get like an extra month.
That's all right. Do we have any other questions from the viewers?
Anyone on Clubhouse? Any questions? So yeah.
Awesome.
Um,
Well, if we don't have any other questions, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up. Chelsea, I appreciate you for coming on and spreading your knowledge. My hopes to the viewers that you're able to acquire some knowledge that will allow you to propel yourself in your business and your personal life. And can you walk us through, Joe says, you're right on time, Mr. Joe Smith. Can you walk us through LLC, S Corp, and C Corps?
okay. I will do it to the best of my ability, understanding the question the way that I think I understand. I think you just want to understand the differences tax wise. So an LLC, you can be a single member LLC or a multi-member LLC, right? If you're a single member LLC, it's treated the same as the sole proprietorship as if you don't have like the business formation. And it's done on your Schedule C, part of your 1040. And it's just really putting all of your business in your personal. So it's all lumped together, right? Um, with a multi-member LLC, it's the same as a partnership. There's another form. It's called a Form 1065. Note that corporations, partnerships are due on March 15th. You can get extensions, but that's the due date. And if you don't file the extension, you'll get a penalty, and it's kind of big. So make sure you, at minimum, file that extension. Um, with those, they're its own return, but you get a K1. A K1 is pretty much your, I'd say it's your W-2 or your 1099 from your partnership
Mhm.
or your S corp, and that goes on your personal return. S corp, same thing. It's its own return. It's an 1120S. It's still a corporation. If you decide to have an S corp and not an LLC taxed as an S corp, you're going to have like the board minutes. There's different like compliance requirements and things that you have to do because you decided to have a corporation as an entity. A lot of times people come and they're like, oh, I have an S corp because someone told me to get an S corp. I'm like, are you doing payroll? Do you make, or do you have the separate accounts? Or do you have the board minutes? Like, are you doing all the compliance things? Because if not,
Mm.
go and get you an LLC, have an LLC, and let the LLC just be taxed as an S corp. So you still have those benefits. But I also tell people you need to make sure that you're at an income level that makes sense for you to have an S corp. Because once you have that, the payroll, that's the amount that you're paying yourself. You can't say, oh, because I didn't make that much money this year, I'm going to just I'm not going to pay myself. You decided to put yourself into a corporation structure that is going to have different requirements and different flexibility, like inflexibilities than an LLC by itself. So think about those things. I always tell people to consider it uh, before jumping in and just listening to what someone blatantly said without knowing your specific situation. The answer I always give is it depends, because everything depends. It depends on your situation. It depends on your circumstances. It depends on your goals. So your risk tolerance. So there's a lot of stuff that you want to make sure that you're considering before just making those decisions. And then corporations by themselves are completely its own entity. So corporations are taxed on an 1120. They've been at the 21% rate. Mr. Trump changed that a couple years ago. Um, and you get paid out with dividends. So everyone talks about double taxation because you get taxed when you get your payroll, and then when you get dividends. So it's different things like that. But corporations also have a lot of structure around them. So I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. So I have a question. How would you go about, let's say somebody decided to do a corporation, but they wanted to put the LLC underneath that corporation. Would you recommend doing that, or should they start out with just the LLC first and wait for the growth and then, uh, get the corporation and put that under the umbrella of the corporation?
I always say wait. It doesn't make sense to. If you're only making $10,000 a year, why are you paying 11,000 in compliance? Right? Like set yourself up for growth. It's good to have a company that you can pay that then pays you that owns the other company. So just having that right structure. But what that looks like could depend for everyone else. There's like a general process behind it. But once and again, it goes to making sure that you understand your situation, your circumstances, your goals.
Okay, nice. Um, I think that kind of might answer your question too, Tam. Mr. Joe Smith says, have you worked with farmers that have cattle?
No, I tell people all the time if you want an agricultural accountant, it's not me. Um, it seems like it'd be very interesting, but that's not my thing.
Awesome.
Quick question before we end it.
Yes, ma'am.
So, say you have an LLC, and your LLC is just considered it's a very general company. Like, for example, mine is just a management company, right? So, if that is what my LLC is, and I wanted to have like other things fall underneath it, is that where DBAs come into place, or do you have to also create LLCs and align them underneath your main LLC?
So
Like,
that's
I
the
guess
question.
my question is exactly how DBA works.
Yeah, so you can do a DBA with that. Then the other thing too is also understanding what the other businesses are. When you start looking at lending, sometimes they want to know specifically what that is, or if you have a partner, or if you want to consider selling the business. Those are things that would, I guess, to me, trigger you wanting to have a separate LLC, but you could do a DBA, especially if it is just like a general management company.
Awesome. And Tam said, what is a DBA?
Doing business as. So that's pretty much, trying to think. There's like a real life example. Okay, so Mercedes Benz is not really called Mercedes Benz. It's like Daimler doing business as Mercedes Benz.
Hmm.
So it's really just a face name of the company.
Gotcha. Well, are there any other questions before we close out? Well, Chelsea, I just want to say thank you again. I appreciate you coming on and spreading the love, spreading the knowledge. And, my hope and my prayers is that, was able to touch somebody's life, their business, the direction that they're seeking to go, and what it is that they're looking to achieve, this tax season, or, whether it's acquiring a PPP loan or establishing a new business entity, whatever it is. I pray that you were affected today by what Chelsea was able to bring to the table. My hopes is that everybody continues to, strive to get to that next level in success, strive to get to the next level as an entrepreneur, business, woman and man, so that we can continue to build amongst camaraderie as a people, as a culture, and continue to build, that fond wealth that, needs to be systemized throughout our economy. If anybody has any questions for Chelsea, where can they find you, Chelsea?
You can either find me on Instagram, Chelsea's underscore change. You guys can go to my website. I have two. I have like my personal one, then I have like the business one. So Charmed Financial Solutions. That's CHARMED Financial Solutions.com, or Chelsea'sChange.com. So that's Chelsea with a Y, CHELSEYS change.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for coming on. If you need any help, please reach out to Chelsea, because I'm more than likely sure she'll be willing to, assist you and guide you in the right direction. So until next time, follow us on Instagram at Black Wall Street _ Charm City, Facebook at Black Wall Street Charm City, and Clubhouse at BWSCC, abbreviations for Black Wall Street Charm City. Much love to everybody. Have a phenomenal weekend, and I'll see you next time.
Hi, thank you, Jason. Thanks, Javante. Thank you, everybody.